Good evening and welcome to Mental Health Matters After Hours with me, Dr Audrey Tang. It's the show where we tackle all things mental health and well-being. Today's guest, Ena Loum, is an author, a publisher and an advocate for social justice and inclusivity within the community. And our topic tonight is gaslighting. Gaslighting was a term that was coined way back in the 1930s, and it was based on a story called Gaslight, where a man would systematically manipulate his wife into thinking she was going crazy. This sort of behaviour, this systematic manipulation to make us not trust our own experiences, can happen in the workplace, it can happen within our relationships, it can also happen medically. And this is what today's show's all about. Let's head over to the main studio. Ena, welcome to Mental Health Matters After Hours. It's such a pleasure to have you here again. And it's a huge topic we're talking about, medical gaslighting. It's a frightening topic. And it's not even just in the medical context. How have you seen gaslighting play out within the community?
Thank you for having me. First of all, it's always a pleasure to be here. You guys are doing a fantastic job, as always, bringing important social topics to light. Very well done for that. Gaslighting, a very, very interesting topic, and I would say it's more common than we think. And half the time, yes, in some institutions, it is easily identifiable than the others. Let's say in an educational setting, you can easily pick up peer manipulation among the students. At work, you can easily identify gaslighting where it is, but the most difficult, which is what you've identified, that's why I was really pleased to join into this conversation. There's so much to say, but we'll try and see how much we can fit in, what's more relevant. Having said that, medical gaslighting in itself, it is the most difficult to identify because it takes so much time sometimes to ascertain, and even as an individual, when it's being done or happening to you, you're not quite sure what's going on, especially when you are vulnerable. When you are in pain, you go to someone, a medical practitioner, for example. In your moment of distress, for some reason, your concern is disregarded as invalid. Someone will just say, you know what, it doesn't matter, or just deal with it. And you're thinking, they are in charge, they're sitting in there, they are meant to look after me. How am I meant to take that? So it is very difficult, and medical gaslighting, it's relevant and it's in our communities. The question is, how do we identify it?
That's a very good question.
How do we identify it?
And hopefully we'll be able to find some answers in today's show. You make a really good point, as you were talking, about actually there is a difference between the medical experience or context compared to workplace and schools, because there is a power imbalance, but it's a knowledge imbalance in that you go to the medical profession thinking, well, you have all this knowledge, and so if they say, oh no, you don't need to worry about that, you are more likely to believe them.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's a real problem. And then worse still, I know my parents would never have questioned a doctor, ever. And that's not just because they were of the age of, we don't say anything, but because, and they're from Malaysia. Malaysia was a colony, and there is a sort of inbuilt acceptance of the Western view as the authority to some degree. And so why do minority communities struggle speaking up?
You've touched on it, a very interesting question, because it is not as simple as what meets the eye. It's always complicated, and it is down to several factors. You've mentioned an Malaysian heritage. Colonialism has come into factor, and there is a generational difference in there. Like you've said, you and I are more likely to question someone's opinion of authority irrespective of their background than our parents. I say that as well, there's a key word, what you said, the ethnic minorities. It doesn't mean they're necessarily being targeted, but then there's a deeper root to that, which is socio-economic factors. One could argue and say, yes, in the local communities that are being served where, let's say, poorer background, let's just call a spade, in poorer background, poorer geographical locations, you tend to have more ethnic minority groups within it. And then again, the service, they will rely on it's within the public sector. Whereas when you compare it to a private sector, the people that can afford it are more on the higher level, not for working class people. So there's a generational difference, colonialism in there, whereas let's say our parents or the people before us are sort of wired into respecting authority.
Yes.
You have to believe what you're being told. You have to respect that uniform and not to question it. But then the key component here is trust. Because we trust in that person, we trust in that system, we trust in that in the institution, that they do have the knowledge and the capacity to serve. Whereas the person sitting in there now, what we have is the shortfall of resources, knowledge, and there's a gap between socioeconomic education and employment. Are we having the right people in the right places? So yes, ethnic minorities, yes, tend to face the whip more, but there are deeper rooted factors than that. Colonialism is there, generational gap, it's there, but as we go along to the conversation with different examples that we encounter, we might face out. For instance, let's say, when I was younger, going to school, I would have said things simple like period pain. I used to have it so painful. I could remember GCSE, I've missed my last paper because I just couldn't sit. I will be sick, I will throw up. There's not even a paracetamol, there's no pads, nothing to be given at schools. You just told as a woman, just deal with it. In fact, it was a taboo to talk about it for your peers, for the boys to hear it. Whereas now, my younger daughter is actually in a movement or front, let's say, period pain, not period gain. She talks about it and she thinks, you know what, why should we be quiet? We should be given equal attention as the boys. It should be recognized, and it's nice to see that schools are actually teaching it. Teaching it. So medical gaslighting has come in different forms, different ways. A more serious level that people take for granted, they brush it off, to a higher level where like your parents' situation that has got more deeper rooted meanings that meets the eye.
You're almost talking about social gaslighting, communities here.
And it's so much more complex, isn't it? Than you might think on first kind of look at it.
Absolutely.
So how might you help somebody to challenge a figure of authority then?
We might all deal with it differently. Personally, sometimes I've got this habit on me of being so annoyingly calm. It's unbelievable because I will first sit and listen. I would just sit and listen. Give you a chance to, prove yourself and talk to me on the same level, because the way I see it is, do not take me to be for stupid, a person, or ignorant. Yes, and then what's very important here is the level of need, vulnerability in there. Because I would say to the person, speak up. It's as simple as speak up or challenge it. But it's not as easy as it is.
No,
it's not as simple or as easy as that. I've sat in a, let's say, medical reception, I don't know, on my phone. I just had exchange of words. It's getting louder. Continuously within 2 to 3 minutes. I don't know what came over me. I just got up, stood up, went to the counter, and I said, excuse me, I'm sorry, but do you think you're being a bit hard on her? How about you just listen to what she's trying to say? Because the problem was, this is a senior person from a broad Asian background. The messages come through your phone for your doctor's appointment now. they've misread it, or they cannot even read it.
Yes.
I took the phone and read it.
Yeah.
Spoke to the person, and and said, "Oh, sorry, you could have said that."
Oh.
I'm like, gosh.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That person.
This person could barely stand and reach the counter. They, mobility scooter or whatever.
Oh gosh.
I will come out and speak to them.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the empathy. We got a duty of care, a position. It's not as simple as and say speak up, or ask for second opinion. And then when I got back to my seat, I told either my daughter was beside me actually. It was an appointment for her. I thought she would tell me off. She said to me, "Well done, Mum, for speaking up." And someone else said to me, "Well done." I'm like, actually, I didn't. It's subconscious.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I didn't even realize when I got up to speak. And I'm usually very calm. I'll say, okay, it's easy to say it's none of my business. It's got nothing to do with me. But sometimes let's just take a step back and bring the human element of it.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Show
thinking.
empathy.
Yes.
Being human
Care.
about it.
Yeah, because once you sign that contract, you've got the duty of care, the 6 C's. Compassion,
Yes.
care, competence.
Yeah.
You got due diligence to serve the people that are coming walking through those doors. Yes, as patients or our customers, we also got the responsibility to treat, whoever is serving us the same way we expect to be treated. But sometimes when they sit there, they just feel they're untouchable. I would say, take your time and speak up. If you feel like you cannot deal with it, seek second opinion. I've asked to speak to practice managers once or twice. Usually, luckily, I don't encounter it as such. But I've requested to speak to a practice manager on behalf of someone. It's got nothing to do with me, and it doesn't have to be aggressive.
No, of course.
Be calm.
Do you know what? We talk so much about being an ally, and we've never talked about it in this context of simply being an ally to your neighbour.
Yeah.
Simply being an ally to somebody who needs
Someone
your help.
I've never met, I've never seen them,
That's
but I
so
just felt
important.
like, you know what? I don't even know what got me off my seat. It's just that when I was before coming to this show, I had a few words with the kids. I said, I'm going to the show, but I need to do a little research, but I'm a bit busy. And I said to me, Mom, you've got so much to talk about because you yourself have dealt with it subconsciously, but it's the same, just different context. I'm like, oh yeah, you are right, and I've got my own personal experiences as well. But I would just say, speak up. If you think you cannot deal with it, ask your neighbour.
Yeah, no, that's good advice.
Hugely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so in terms of being gaslit, is there a difference between gaslighting and microaggressions, or is microaggression maybe a form of gaslighting?
There's a fine line between the two. But in my world, in my view, I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
Because gaslighting or being gaslit in some context is intentional.
Yes, that is true. Yes.
Yeah.
It's very intentional and manipulative. Let's say gaslighting itself came into people's dictionary, let's say in the notice, due to relationships, a man manipulating a wife and all this.
Yeah.
That's how it started, pure manipulation.
But intentional.
Cognitive.
Yes.
Intentional. There was a purpose in there. Whereas microaggression, in my view, sometimes it's just unconscious bias.
Yes.
Yes,
We could be subconsciously generalizing and say, a certain community, they're just unfriendly, or they're just not very nice people. It's the tone in a passive-aggressive way, making certain sly comments, and you think it's all right.
Yeah.
When you call out to that person, I didn't mean it that way. I was only joking.
Yes.
Come on, I'm sat here, I can hear you.
Yeah.
And if I had responded or reacted in the slightest way to match them, I become the person.
Then it would be your fault, exactly.
It becomes my fault. I am made to believe or made to look like, what, you've got it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. That's why, like I said, I'll just stay calm.
Yes.
I'm like, are you sure that's what you meant to say? And you repeat it, and I'm like, clearly, you know what you're saying then. You might come across as if, subconscious, but you've got a general feel, being stereotypical that a certain community, a certain background should be dealt in that way. It's funny. Let's say a family member said to me, even when we're going to our local doctors now, you have to dress up. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? Because they tend to judge you, they have a perception of how to deal with you based on how you appear,
Wow.
how you look.
That's never
I'm-
occurred to me.
Whilst you're ill.
I'm like, that is wrong. It shouldn't be
Of
that
course.
way.
Wrong.
Yeah, I'm like, it shouldn't be that way.
When you're unwell, you barely want to get out of your pajamas.
Thank you. And I'm like, are you sure? She said to me, yes. If you don't believe me, test it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, seriously? And then when you just observe, you can see it. It's there. The reaction that you and I might get when we come and say, hello, how are you today? You speak eloquently, assertive, being firm, to the person who came and being a bit mellowed, subdued. It's different.
Yeah.
It's just the human culture. Some of us, it's within us. Not everyone. Let's be clear on this. There are some exceptional people out there
Of course.
that take their jobs and their duties with due diligence, and they're doing a fantastic job out there. But unfortunately,
There are others that don't.
Oh, we are keeping you with us, Ena. This,
thank you.
we could talk all day about this. And we will be back just after this break. Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours. We have the fabulous author, advocate, publisher Ena Loum with us. We are talking about a really important topic, which we haven't actually addressed on this show fully before, and that is medical gaslighting and gaslighting within the community and how we need to find our voices. Now, many people within their own communities may experience certain stereotypes which can cause barriers to them speaking up or saying anything. Or just as an example of this, within the black community, I know that there is this stereotype of the strong black woman, which means that people may feel, I can't show a weakness, I don't want to step down. Or sometimes if you do speak up, you're just kind of put in the, oh, she's acting out, she's doing this thing. So how do we begin to address both a community to break the stereotypes that are put upon them so they are able to get the healing and support that they need, but also to explain to communities at large that stereotyping is not helpful and it shouldn't just, address our own thought process?
Yes. What can I say? A very, very important point you've just raised in there. And there are different factors. At community level, being a black woman myself, sometimes a fellow black woman would see me as an anomaly because of how I will see difference in things and how we behave. There are cultural boundaries that we build around ourselves, which is not entirely sometimes our fault, but because we've been raised up that way, we've been brought up that way. And it is come down to the point now in this generation, generational gap is there, and there is a cultural politics that we ourselves find ourselves, we firing it. We fueling the conversation and we validating that belief that yes, a strong black woman shouldn't complain, shouldn't come forward, even when it's hurting. I say this to you, to any other black woman that would have been next to me. Are we not human? We are all equal human beings. A feeling is a feeling.
Yeah.
So sometimes we are our own worst enemies. How do we break away from this? It's education. Yeah. Let's educate ourselves thoroughly and differentiate what is a cultural hindrance and what is our progression. Beautiful. Because we have got this obligation to ourselves, to our youth, to our young people, to be exemplary role models. We have to set the example, because if I'm suffering in silence, falling behind this cultural politics, not going out to seek help, staying in our own bubble, who am I doing it for?
True.
Yeah. I'm not doing myself any justice. Whether I like it or not, the service will still be there and it will continue. And in fact, we are nurturing this stereotypical behavior. The services are there, well, they don't come out to us. We can't reach out to them.
Yeah.
And we are forming this barrier.
Yes.
And as a working class people, you're paying your taxes.
You
I
should
wouldn't say you are
expect, yeah.
entitled even,
But
it is just a basic human requirement
And a right.
and a right.
Everyone has
absolutely.
the same right.
Yes.
No matter what
Absolutely.
cultural background you
Absolutely.
have.
Absolutely. Without your cultural background, your cultural heritage, your gender, your race, your all that, you are all equally working towards the same workforce,
Yes.
the same community. What makes it better than building it together? You need the service, it's there, ask for it. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly.
If you don't speak up, you would not be heard. If you're not being listened to, make sure you are listened to. Some of us are not very good at speaking. Let's say sometimes, even I struggle to put to words certain things I'm, feeling inside within me. Right.
Yeah.
Put pen to paper.
Yes.
I have written to my local surgery a few times, not because of my own personal needs, because of something I've seen. I have written to, let's say, our local authority in the educational sector, higher educational learning, which is something I'm very passionate about something affecting the youths within us, stereotypical behavior. It's got nothing to do with me. I might benefit from it, my children might benefit from it, or maybe not. But it is a generational issue that we have to make sure we do something about it. We don't just say, okay, it's okay. It's always been like that.
Yeah.
So who am I to change it? And I say, why not?
It's good advice to write it down as well, because then
Write
you've
it
got
down.
time to think
Because
about
you
it.
have time to reflect and,
Yeah.
bring it to paper. And then when you're more calm, when you read it and you do research, because surprisingly, I'll bring this to attention. I did a little research this morning just before getting ready for the show. A few weeks ago, we had on BBC about the Northampton baby deaths.
Yes.
When I've looked at it, the people that came forward to talk about the premature abortion of their, fetuses because they were told by the local authority something is wrong with the baby, and it came 2 years later, now 2021, now in 2025, almost 4 years later, 5 years before it came to light, everyone that spoke up was not from the ethnic minority backgrounds. And I cannot put hand on my heart and say they haven't experienced it. They have.
Yeah.
I would almost certainly say, someone may correct me on this if I'm wrong, I would almost certainly say someone out there has experienced it, but they will not come forward.
Yeah.
Due to cultural boundaries, cultural barriers we put in front of ourselves, it's really not very helpful.
Yes.
I would say, you know what, just reach out, break the stereotypical, boundaries that we set for ourselves and ask for help.
It's a really important message.
It is.
Thank you.
It is.
Um,
It is.
do you mind me asking if you've experienced gaslighting, and if so, are you willing to share your experience?
I don't mind at all, not at all. If you've asked me this question, let's say even 5 years ago, I would say, I don't know.
Okay.
Interesting.
Because I may have experienced something. It comes down to what I've mentioned earlier, trust.
Yes.
Trust is the key component in here for the perpetrators as well as the victims.
Yes.
It's a trust. Because I would trust in that person who was gaslighting me. That probably not, they're not. Whereas that person was able to get away with it because they are in a position of trust.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why they got away with it.
Okay.
I will give you this example. When I talk about certain social issues, I always like to either bring in research or my own personal experience. And thank God this question was directed at me. 18 years ago, when my daughter was born, I've mentioned this before, she was born normal. 2 months later, she fell ill.
Gosh.
I went to our local surgery. I was sent home with paracetamol. These were the key words. That's why being asked about gaslighting or talking about it or reading about it helps an individual reflect.
Yeah.
So let's say this book will come to it. So awaken this. Because at the time, I know what I felt, but I cannot put it to words. What does it actually mean? Never mind how educated I am, but it's all experience. And when you're in a position of vulnerability, certain things are difficult. You cannot gauge the situation. So the second day she wasn't better, I went back again. I was sent home with ibuprofen.
Okay.
I was told that babies will be teething quite early on.
At 2 months?
And I said at 2 months, I said, yes, it's showing. He even said it's showing. It could be showing on their palate without even examining the child.
Oh, gosh.
My goodness.
You check the temperature, temperature is high, that was fine, but no other physical examination. So that was, the first one was on a Tuesday morning. The second one I went Wednesday. Thursday morning I went again, it was ibuprofen. Different people.
Oh, gosh.
And if I may clarify, it was, I'll actually clarify later, but let me just carry on. So Thursday morning I was sent home with ibuprofen. So 8 p.m. in the night, getting her ready for bed, birthing her and all that, she grunted.
Oh.
I'm like, gosh, I felt it. This is not normal.
You know when something's not
I
right.
wasn't driving at the time. I just cuddled my baby. We didn't live far from the hospital then. I just walked across to the, it was 8 p.m. I was going to walk across. My sister said, no, take a taxi. So it's short, but I put because she's already called the weather. It was in November, I think.
Oh, God.
So I took a taxi, went to the A&E. The initial consultation, the nurse said to me, hang on a minute. She ran and go and get second opinion.
Wow, okay.
When the second person came, they just bundled her and ran, said, follow me. I had back on my neck, thank you.
Oh, it's giving me goosebumps.
So I started, almost grabbed the baby back. I ran after her. One thing after the other. She was straight into an incubator in the baby unit. They tried to regulate her. Nothing was happening. She was fluctuating up and down. We didn't have an intensive care unit in Bedford Hospital. This was around 8 p.m. until midnight. It was just on and off. We just couldn't. They just couldn't regulate. In fact, they don't allow anyone into the adults emergency ICU, but they have to let me in because as a parent, I was just.
Yes.
I was just beyond consolation.
Yeah, of course.
So we were then I rang my family members. Everyone came literally, but they couldn't let them in. So in the ambulance, I had to go with her to another intensive care unit in Cambridge. I will not go mention certain organization details. So when we got there, everything rushing. But having said that, to be fair, they did a fantastic job. Up to 8 to 10 doctors in one room.
Wow.
Just trying to revive her, just trying to get her stabilized. They did a fantastic job. She had drips in her groin, in her hands, literally. As a baby seeing that picture,
That's awful.
words cannot explain that. So I just went through the emotions of all those days to bring fast forward. She was ventilated and she was meant to be ventilated for 14 nights.
Oh my goodness.
So at the 10th night, someone came to me with a piece of paper, called me out of the room and said to me, oh, we're trying some medical experience. That was clear. And there was a lot of words, small print that I could barely see because I've cried so much, my eyes were swollen. But just sign here and we can go ahead with the procedure. I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you say? Can you say it again? He waffled and waffled, explained again, and then when I looked out, there are another 2 people standing by the door, looking to see whether I've signed or haven't signed. I'm like, okay. The whole environment is leaving me unsettling.
It's threatening, yeah.
I'm not convinced.
Because they hadn't even explained to
Yes,
you.
for me, the small print wasn't explained. But I've gathered experience, medical procedure experience. I'm like, okay, has it been done before? He said, well, no, but if you sign here, we can go ahead. When I'm like, are you telling me you want to use my child as a guinea pig for a medical experience? Well, no, that's not what we mean. We mean we're hoping this could get her better, but if you just sign here.
Oh my
and I'm
goodness
saying, sorry, I can't sign this. Because you're not giving me any satisfactory explanation.
No.
You're just emphasizing on the point, sign here. There's nothing wrong with having a medical experience or medical experiment if you want to try it, but not on my child's life.
Yeah.
Not at this critical moment that where I thought I'm most more vulnerable, what I need is help, comfort, and assurance. If I was assured even one bit, I said, what are the chances? We don't know. If you have given me even a 20%, 30% chance, I might have taken up the risk because I would rather have my child with me than say I haven't tried.
Yeah.
Because I owe her that much. At least if I sit, my conscience is clear to say, you know what, at least I have tried.
Yeah.
So now that was the 10th day. Now the 12th, 2 days later, a different person came with the papers. Oh yeah, my colleague has talked to you about this. So we're just waiting for your signature now and we can go ahead with the procedure. I'm like, what is this procedure? Now I've washed my face dry. I am more awake because I need to know what's happening. Is it going to make her any better? He stayed quiet. He said, then are you not going to sign it? I'm like, no, I'm not comfortable at signing it. 3 hours later, a female doctor, senior doctor came with the coat and all this. Yeah, I can see you. I respect what you're wearing and I respect everything else. But it makes no difference to me. I might not be medically trained, I'm not educated in this, and seeing the sight of my daughter lying on that bed, it's, you know, heartbreaking to see her in that position, but I'm not willing to take the gamble. If it is 10 days or 14 days that legally, apparently, she meant to be on the incubator because it's expensive on the NHS. I didn't know that at the time. If someone has said to me it was maximum going to be 14 nights, then they were going to switch off. Unless you do this, this and that, I would have taken the chances. But that wasn't clearly explained to me. And when that female doctor came and said, so you didn't sign this, and that, I said no, because I was just not comfortable. I was very calm at that time, but I just listened. I said, no, I'm just not comfortable. I'm not convinced, because it sounds like you're trying to use my child as a guinea pig, a medical experience, without, you know, giving me there's even a chance of, you know, survival here. Before I knew it, half an hour later, someone came with the organ donor form. Okay. I cried.
Well, of course.
I'm like, okay.
So they're telling you things without actually telling you things?
Yeah. Actually, this gets me emotional all the time.
Oh, gosh.
Because it means the decision has been made. That's the 13th night. The 14th night, my child's incubator or lifeline would have been turned off. Without being told, because what they did was send me away that, you're not allowed to stay in the room anymore because you're not sleeping, you're not drinking, we're worried about your health concerns. So they gave me a room near the hospital. I thought that was, you know, that was caring and that was nice until they said to me, sign the organ donor form. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with organ donors.
No,
but I have to give my consent, and the situation has to be right and warranted. You have to tell me that all options have been exhausted. Show me that you've done all you can. So, the closure to that was now, thank God, I didn't sign it. She survived. They sent me out of the hospital. I couldn't sleep. I stayed outside the hospital door, the gate. The security would not let me in.
What?
And I said, I have to get in and see my child. I kept phoning and phoning, then eventually someone answered. They said to me, is it telepathic or what? Your child has just turned the corner. I sat on the ground, actually, and gave praise to God. I'm like, what does that mean? They said she's breathing on her own without the ventilator.
Wow.
So that's the beauty of it all. That's the, you know, that's God and his ways and his miracle and the power of faith and the power of, I think maybe it's in my personality. I find it hard to trust unless I'm convinced.
Well, I'm not surprised.
So if they had, yes, they are professionally trained, they're medical experts and all that, but if they had convinced me even one little bit with that literature that was in that paper, because I couldn't read it. Yes, I've been to school, but God knows I don't understand any of that was in there. Neither was I willing to listen. I want you to hear. I want to hear you tell me. Because if you're convinced in your words or what you're saying to that person, there's some chance, there's a possibility it will be successful. but you're not even convinced in what you
Yes,
say.
but if you're not,
Yeah.
then why on earth
convinced.
should I take the risk?
And you're trying to
Yeah.
convince
Put the
me,
risk on
why
you.
should I take that risk?
Oh
So
my
what's
goodness.
out there is scary, because medical gaslighting, that's why it is the most sensitive, I find, and the most difficult, because it's an issue of life and death.
Of course.
It's an issue of life and death that we have to be very careful and not to take it lightly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all have the civil responsibility, being the medical practitioner and being the thing. But overall, coming back to the beginning and the previous question, in my instance, I happen to be a black woman, but the initial doctor that sent me off with paracetamol was Asian origin. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So sometimes ethnic backgrounds doesn't have a part to play. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's why I said it's
Yeah.
deeper than social.
Yeah.
It's more social economic factors. Because if it was a private clinic, a private health facility that I was paying for from my own pocket, resources would not have been that way.
No,
Because
that's
I've
right.
had, when the Dr. Lamar case on BBC, research, people's neurodiverse patients, ventilators being turned off, parents not being told, it was all on the NHS.
We need to take a break there, but we're keeping Ena, so we'll be back just after this. Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours. We're talking about an incredibly serious topic, which is medical gaslighting and finding our voice, because we are very lucky to have you with us, Ena. Ena's shared with us an incredibly harrowing experience that she had with the medical
Really
profession.
was.
Thankfully, it worked out okay, but it so easily couldn't have.
Yeah.
And, so I'm so grateful to you for sharing that. And something that you've said is that you didn't have the vocabulary before, and it is all about education. And so how do we give people that understanding? They may not watch this show. Is it something we can do in conversation? How can we help people just on a day-to-day basis to find the vocabulary to even think about what they've been through?
Very good question. It starts on community levels. Because sometimes words are hard to find when you find yourself in certain situations. But as influencers or social influencers, we have the civil responsibility to make sure we advocate for things that we see are wrong and things that we think are right. Because no individual person, irrespective of your background, deserves to be medically gaslighted.
Oh gosh.
Or to be mistreated in whatever way, or being dismissed, especially when you have a medical need, a medical concern, and instead of someone listening to you with empathy, you're being disregarded and being dismissed, saying, you know what, it's not valid. So finding the right words, even if it's difficult, but the more you see people talk about it, it's a reminder. When the reminder and you see the words or you see examples being shared, it awakens your own, you have a reflection on your own experience that I may have gone through something similar, because I bring another example. There is something that's more difficult in that is still happening. Ethnic minority backgrounds within the medical profession is diagnosis of autoimmune diseases.
Oh.
That is, for example, like lupus. I've got a family member that has gone into hospital several times, being sent home with Raynaud, and she was having swelling on her feet, swelling on her head. She eventually lose all her hair, blood tests. Things were inconclusive. Until one day she was just having like tits, the speech was getting affected. She was shaking. I personally dropped her off to the A&E. Then I called a family friend, a family member who is a doctor working at the hospital. She came out, just looked at her hands and said, she's got lupus. When it took other medical professionals, how many months diagnosed, she was in pain, severe, serious agony, sitting down, doing stuff. Everything was swollen. We just didn't know what was wrong. Thanks to that family friend that bypassed all the rules, made sure she was admitted straight into hospital because all her autoimmune levels, everything was low. Sodium was low, this iron was low, this was low, that was low. She was on to drip straight away. And because of that family friend, she was diagnosed with lupus.
Oh, gosh.
Because most black people, we struggle to retain vitamin D within our skin. So sometimes we struggle more. So it's difficult for medical practitioners sometimes to say what's actually wrong with this person. When I say speak up as social influencers, we've got the civil responsibility. In a most recent case, I just came at the flash, Nadia Hussein. Nadia Hussein, the celebrity, she was out of the public limelight for a while. Apparently, she's got an autoimmune disease.
Okay.
Now that she's come forward speaking about it, she's already got an audience.
And people are connecting and resonating with her experience.
People will jot the dots. So it's important to talk about your experiences. However small your platform is, we have a voice and people will listen.
Yes, and something that you said earlier really brings us back to the book that you've got today. You said if you don't find you can even speak, you can write. And this is a book that was published by Speak Up Talk Radio in Ohio by Pat Rullo. She's one of the friends of the show. And there's a chapter in that on medical gaslighting, which Ena very kindly endorsed.
Very loved, actually. Yes, I love this.
It's a lovely anthology about patient experience. And this is a great example of how a book can challenge stereotypes, how a book can resonate with us and help us speak up. As an author and as a publisher yourself, what is that power in books to get people to go, oh, hang on a minute, that happened to me, that is normal, I know I can step forward on this?
The power of words have got this ability to bring out deep reflection. Personally, sitting here today, reading some of these in there, as a parent, what I've experienced with my child, as a young adult myself, when I was being dismissed with period pain, is being normal. And as a caregiver, especially with some of the long-term terminal illnesses in there, I've got a young person as well who has got disabilities, and he used to be almost normal. It was just ADHD until COVID came. He had an epilepsy, a full-blown epilepsy. I was scared, not knowing what happened and all that. But when we went into hospital, the doctor instead was questioning me, as in, why has he got epilepsy?
Why has he got epilepsy?
Yes, so I have to explain. I'm like, I am here for you to tell me.
Yeah, you're the doctor.
I'm expecting a CT scan or, MRI scan or something. I have to do my own research to go and tell you what I...
Oh my gosh. Surrender.
So the power of books help us reflect our experiences.
And make people feel like they're not alone as well.
It makes you sense of community, that you are not alone. It has, and then again, it brings up medical gaslighting across the board. It could happen to anyone.
Yes.
So yes, reflection.
We're obviously women, and this happens to women a lot, where we're told, oh, we're being emotional, you know, oh, you might not feel like this in a couple of weeks because, you know, your hormones might have died down by then or whatever. Are there questions that we should ask ourselves when we kind of feel like we're being gaslit in that way?
we can take a break while
Yeah,
the
you're
water's
okay.
here. Sorry, it's okay. We'll go back to the answer to the question, so that's okay.
So we
grab
good,
a sweet.
I'm looking for my tissue.
Are you all
Oh,
right?
my tissue's on the floor. It's just underneath you there.
I'll go. Yeah.
It's all right.
Oh,
This is such a fascinating show.
oh, I know.
Oh my gosh.
It's something we could talk about for hours.
I know,
I know.
and should, and the reason we are is because I don't think people do talk about it.
That's why I said there's so much to talk about. I have to be careful what to say, what not to say. There is so much to talk about.
There is so much.
No, when I was having Sophie,
Yeah.
and I went for a scan at the hospital,
Yeah.
and the consultant there tried to put me when I didn't need it.
Oh, wow.
And she basically told me, oh, well, your baby's not going to survive if you don't have this
What?
state. Because she was small, like Isabel was small, so it wasn't odd to me that I would possibly have a small baby. But they basically did a scan and said, oh, she's slightly on the small side, so we should book you in for an induction. And I went, no.
What?
I said, unless there's something physically wrong,
Yeah.
I don't need an induction.
No.
Oh my God.
I don't see the relevance of why
No, I
she's
was like,
small,
unless you can
meaning.
tell me anything
Yeah, medical
why I need to
reason.
have an induction.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to have it. But I can imagine a lot of people would have just, from that
Panic.
that they said, you know, or anything could happen, and you know, she might not survive, she might not be getting nutrient. I was like, unless you can tell me there's something wrong with the placenta, or there's something wrong,
Yeah.
she's not getting it. Then
It's
no.
the wording, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's the wording that they use.
Yeah.
They more or less said, well, she won't survive with you. But
Oh my God,
which
that's
would have freaked a lot of
terrible.
people out.
Yeah.
I myself, because it was, you know, I'd gone along to this scan by myself. Thinking,
Oh God.
Yeah.
And I felt quite confident that I was within my rights to just go no.
Yes,
And
yeah,
the midwife, when I spoke to the midwife, like, I think the same day, she was like, well done for saying no, because unless they can give you a reason, then, yeah.
Oh,
I
Jesus
can imagine lots
Christ.
of people just go, yeah, that's fine. I'll
Yeah.
go with you because you're the expert.
And you're scared. It was your first, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but oh my God.
But yeah, it's scary.
That is scary. That is really
It is.
scary.
It is.
It's disgusting,
Yeah, so
actually.
that's, unless you read about it or see what's out there,
Yeah.
you just don't realize that
This
it's
is-
happening. It is scary.
Gosh. I'm going to rip this as a podcast so you can share the whole thing as well, because I think this is a really, you know, and you can put that on your site. You can have the whole audio. Okay, let's carry on to the answer of the question, which was about women being told, you're so emotional.
Yes. Question such comments wherever they're made,
Yes,
especially
definitely.
in our corporate institutions. There should be no room for that.
Yes, it doesn't need to be said, does it?
Because that is blatant discrimination. And I would say, in my view, I think as women, we need to be listened to. We need to be given, our thoughts and emotions are as equally as valid as our male counterparts.
Yeah.
We should be standing side by side. Yes, without a doubt we will have different traits which makes you a man and makes me a woman. But that is not a barrier or hindrance. In fact, what we should do is see how best can we support each other, stand side by side in all walks of life to make sure we make a difference.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. Brilliant.
That answers it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everything that you've shared with us today, and for your opinions and your viewpoints on everything.
We'll
Thank
have
you.
all of Ena's details in the show notes. Let's head over to Test the Trend.
When it comes to medical gaslighting, all of us will have individual experiences. No single experience may exactly be the same. But what you have to realize that we are all unique in an individual way, so is your experience. Your experience is real. Let no one tell you otherwise. It is real. It's you who feel the emotions. It's you who's enduring it. And it is you that know how it feels. So if you're not satisfied with what the medical practitioner is telling you or giving you, and you are able, please seek a second opinion within that same medical practice, or speak to someone else to ask on your behalf. I say this simply because in my line of work, before, a few years ago, I did a part-time role. I've encountered a senior woman, senior citizen, who was almost bending when they're walking. She refused to go into hospital to have her knees operated on because she felt like the trust was not there. She would not be given equal treatment. Whereas I have another associate, pardon me for saying this, who is white. She's been into hospital more than I can count. She had both knees replaced. She had hip replacement done. She had a shoulder replacement done, as if she wants to live in a hospital. I'm like, okay, how do I correlate the two? So it comes in a systematic failures that has accumulated and formed this stereotype or barrier for some of us that we just not safe or feel secure into the medical practice. But what I have to say is there are exceptional people out there. I've said it, I can say it again. Not everyone is the same. So please do speak up and seek second opinion. If you're not sure if your symptoms are real, do a short research on the internet. Speak to a family member, speak to friends, do a research, a lot of research. Sometimes educational background or not being able to read or write is a hindrance, but there are interpretation facilities. Go and seek a second opinion.
Thank you so much, Ena, for that fabulous, empowering talk in Test the Trend.
Yes.
So please speak up. That's the most important thing. So much to take from today.
It's such a huge topic, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
And we kind of just touched on the
scratch the surface.
really, yeah.
But I think that's the thing. Speak up about your experiences, share your experiences, because even if it shocks other people, at least we're aware that these things can happen.
Yeah.
So we're going to hand it over to you, Ena, because you are just incredible, to give us your top tips for speaking up, especially when we're feeling dismissed.
I will break it into 4 segments, depending on how much time we have. Cultural barriers, cultural politics, it's a hindrance, number one. Education, employment, as well as raising awareness, as in politicians have got a duty of care. Would they use that platform? Actually, yes, some of them do. Now, not recent, I've read the cultural secretary has invited some women to talk about period pain, menopause, and all this. I say, fantastic, that is great. We use our educational settings, educational backgrounds to talk to the young people. We start from grassroots levels. Because if we teach them early about what is right and what is wrong and what to expect from our social institutions, when they reach the age or the stage that it happens or they see it happening, they can take a pause, step back, reflect, and speak up. If they're not able to challenge that power of authority, they will write again or speak to someone else in authority or someone else in charge. Cultural politics, systemic categorization unfortunately has created limitations in so many different communities that sometimes it's hard to know what's right and wrong. We are made to believe that those systemic clarification or systemic boxing or categorization is the right thing. No. Break free from those chains, break free from those shackles, break free from those boundaries. research. Education. Let's educate both girls and boys, give them equal opportunities to study. Because the sky is the limit. And again, employment. Let's advocate, use our platforms. We have the civil and social responsibility to use our platforms to advocate for social responsibilities, social justice.
Oh my goodness, what an incredible show. You will come back, won't you, to speak with us again. Have a very good night.